Last night, I got a chance to speak with Phil Knight, the visionary who founded Nike way back in 1963 and ran the company for more than 40 years before retiring. Now, earlier this year, Knight published a memoir. It's called Shoe Dog, about getting Nike off the ground. I got to tell you, this is one of the best business books and best autobiographies I've ever encountered. Last time I was in Silicon Valley, it was what everybody was reading. That's why when Phil Knight came on our show last night, our interview ran long, and we had to save the rest of it for today. So take a look. Mr. Knight, Shoe Dog reads like a novel. It's almost inconceivable that someone who has somewhat of a plan but not a great plan comes up and really develops maybe one of the greatest companies that ever existed. How are you able to... At no point did I think you'd succeed, is what I mean to say. No point. And yet you kept going. And you even talk about at the end about talking about the idea that maybe you should give up. And it's for charlatans to just say that you got to keep persevering. Why did you continue despite every single reversal?
Well, I've had a lot of people tell me, we know how it ends, but we think he's not going to make it. Yeah, there were a lot of touch-and-go moments, and which I told about in the book. But, you know, we always knew that we could fail. But we never thought we would. And everybody said, just as you just did, why did you keep at it? Well, first of all, I've been in business for some 50-some years. It was the most fun I ever had. But a part of it is the characters that are described in the book that were so meaningful. It was a band of brothers, and we really loved each other. And we had a cause, and we believed it would succeed, and any adversity that was thrown at us, we were just going to overcome. And we knew we could fail, we just didn't think we would. And we loved doing what we were doing, and we loved each other.
Are you nostalgic for the butt-face days, the misfit days, the original crew, where it just seems like they are, don't judge a book by its cover, but that is the most unlikely group of people to be running a sports apparel company ever?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the fun things about the book was getting together with Waddell and Johnson and talking about it, getting the facts as right as we could, and Del Hayes as well. It was a wonderful group. And I will say this, Jim, I think you would have made a wonderful butt face.
Well, thank you. I had a Stop Pre. I was at one point a pretty good runner. I had a Stop Pre T-shirt. I wore my Stop Pre T-shirt to every single meet, took it off right before I ran. You talk about Pre very lovingly. You talk about Oregon very lovingly. Oregon's a major character in your book, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. And it's a major character in the company's culture.
And why is that? It's a state. My daughter lives in Oregon, so I'm conscious when I go. It's just a different kind of place. It inspires people in almost a pioneer way that we thought of 150 years ago.
Well, I think so, but I think that's true of almost any geography. I think, obviously, New York has a certain character to it, and Texas does, and Oregon, and all three are very different from each other.
Okay, will there be a sequel here? Because you end in 1980, then you go to Knight, N-I-G-H-T, but there's nothing about Michael Jordan. There's nothing about the big things that made this company go to multi-billion. Is that the next book?
Well, I don't know. When I got finished with this one, I said never again, but I'm weakening a little, so stay tuned.
Yeah, because we actually don't know. I mean, I know why my sister and I read, we were just dazzled by it. We didn't think, we know who Nike is, but we too didn't think that Nike was going to succeed from the book. But we just clamor for more about what happened in the 90s that made this company really take off.
Well, thank you. Your encouragement will mean something. It's a lot of work, though, I'll tell you that.
All right, now, if the Shoe Dog were to start now, would the Shoe Dog be working at Apple or Facebook or Alphabet instead of Nike?
Oh, that's really hard to say. You know, these are different times that, you know, it was the 60s. And so when I wanted to start into business, I told my 20-year-old sister to go down to City Hall and get a license. And that was it, and we were off and running. You know, nowadays you have to get accountants and lawyers and get everything to get going into business. It's an entirely different world today, so I really don't know how to answer that.
Well, let's talk about entrepreneurship. And this is a book which tells you about everything from narrow-minded bankers, rapacious and deceitful trading partners, the onerous nature of the government. These are things, they all exist now, but aren't they harder now? The entrepreneurial spirit, even as you say at the end of the book, it's really been quenched in a lot of places in this country.
Yeah, it is. It is harder in many ways to start. The good news is, though, that a lot of the struggles that I had is because I couldn't get any money. And nowadays you have venture capital firms all over everywhere that are willing to take a look at companies with promise or have a few good years of profitability under their belt. So in some ways it's easier. There is a sort of a downtrend, I think, in entrepreneurial spirit, just for, I don't know why the reasons, but everything has a cycle. As they tell you in statistics class, the sex life of a flea has a cycle. So I'm optimistic that the cycle will reverse itself here in the future.
Okay, Mr. Knight, I need you to do something. I mentioned to one of my daughters, I said, well, I have Phil Knight on. She goes, oh, Nike, didn't they have a sweatshop problem? And I told her, go read page 373 about the girl effect. Will you please talk about the girl effect? We clear this thing up right now.
Well, the girl effect this was really kind of a result of some of the problems that we had from outside criticism about the factories. And basically, we wanted to be good citizens in all the places that we operate. And to the extent that the factories could be improved, I think we've improved them greatly over the years and continue to improve them. But in that process, Maria Idle, who was in charge of corporate responsibility, came up with the idea of having the girl effect, which would be in the underdeveloped world, that by investing in young women, investing in their education and their counseling, you could have a greater economic impact than almost anything you can do in these countries. So we started doing that. We're operating in, I don't know, close to a dozen with our charitable contributions in something like a dozen countries. And we've been operating there for 7 or 8 years. And the impact on the young women, the objective is to have them delay marriage, to be able to get an education, to be able to get into business if they want, to get into the things that they want to do. And it's having an impact. And it's had so much interest from the outside world that it's had investments from a lot of different people. It's now broken out from Nike, and it's a standalone organization, which is truly having a very positive impact on the underdeveloped world.
Can you just talk about the evolution of money in sports? I mean, when you started, money wasn't that important. It's become it's almost the be-all and end-all. But is there still a Prefontaine spirit out there somewhere?
Oh, sure. I think it's all over the place, and it's going to be all over Rio. There's just going to be a lot of stories that people that you never heard of come out of the woodwork to win gold medal. And there's no drama like the drama on the athletic field.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is most of the people I read their business books, and they have them written by someone else. Sir, you actually wrote this. Where did you learn to be such a good writer?
Well, thank you. The compliment means a lot, but the book is really kind of my version of the product that says if you have enough typewriters and enough monkeys, that you get all the works of Shakespeare. But I had 8 different drafts, and I had 4 different editors looking over my shoulder and reviewing it and helping me. And so there was a lot of collaboration in this thing, and that's to get Jim Cramer's compliment. That's what it took for me.
Well, it was a more remarkable book. Last thing, are there any young Phil Knights out there that you just can please mention for us?
Well, I don't know them by name, but we've got them all over this campus.
Well, fair enough. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Phil Knight, founder and chairman emeritus of Nike and author of one of the best books I have ever read, Shoe Dog. Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.